You know all those bizarre photos of Catherine McKenna kayaking with a bunch of other Liberal MPs, blowing off work, or of her snowshoeing to work in a skiff of snow? Well, they don't come cheap. Today we have an order paper question response that details the enormous photography costs required by the Liberals to stroke their overinflated egos. This picture hit the internet this past week. It was posted by the shallowest woman in all of politics. And you know what? Politics is a shallow career to begin with. Its current infrastructure minister and my personal comedic muse, Catherine McKenna, and a bunch of her Liberal MP cohorts bragging in the most tone-deaf of ways about kayaking, when this week her party shut down the House of Commons so that they could govern our country and spend whatever they wanted without any accountability in an absolute economic catastrophe caused by a Chinese pandemic. It's crazy when you say it out loud like that. You see, this is a government that would rather take photos about what they do when they should be governing, but refuse to. They're bragging about kayaking while getting paid by the taxpayer to do work they won't go back to the House of Commons and do. It's outrageous. And these Liberals think the citizens of this country, who would give anything to be able to go back to their jobs and earn a wage, will be just amused by it all. We're entertained. We aren't amused at the entitlement and the obnoxious vanity photos, which incidentally are pretty darn expensive. Let me show you. The information comes to us by way of an order paper question asked by Saskatchewan Conservative MP Corey Toker. He asked, with regard to government spending for photographers or photography service contracts since January 1st, 2019, broken down by department or agency, how much was spent? What were the dates and duration of each contract? What was the initial and final value of each contract? What were the details of all events or occasions for each contract? Now, we find out that the Liberals have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in photography expenses for just 1 year. Page 6, the Department of National Defense says they have their own photographers, so they don't need to hire outside ones. That's good news, right? The Canadian Armed Forces employs highly skilled photographers and military imagery technicians as full-time employees. Photography services are not provided on a contractual basis and therefore not captured in this response. Okay, that sounds like good news. No extra spending, right? But then over the next 2 pages, D&D admits to spending $82,000 hiring other photographers in 2019. On pages 45 and 46, Heritage spent $30,300 on photographers, including for the minister, and to film Ottawa area stuff like Winterlude, taking pictures of the Christmas lights, and filming the Rideau Canal. And these all include contracts up to March for some reason. Page 63, Catherine McKenna spent $23,000 at Environment and Climate Change Canada on photography, but the ministry wasn't paying photographers to capture the beauty of Canada. Rather, she was buying stock photos for pamphlets and her social media. Still, with Catherine McKenna, the other agency under her purview, Parks Canada, spent nearly $235,000, including $900 to purchase 5 photos of sheep. We're not done with McKenna, though. On page 91, as an environment minister, in a rare moment of ingenuity, McKenna figured out a way to pass the cost of her extreme vanity onto another ministry. But alas, there is but one taxpayer. McKenna had Global Affairs hire her a photographer for her visit to the UN to the tune of $5,300. Page 92, Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland wasn't just hiring photographers to feed McKenna's ego. She hired a photographer to take pictures of her with the UK Foreign Minister in Toronto in August 2019 for $805. In all, her ministry spent over $45,000 on photography, most of which was on taking pictures of official residences for Canadian diplomats. On page 87, Fisheries and Oceans spent $263,000 on outside photography. Page 100, Health Canada spent nearly $10,000, most of which was to support the Healthy Canadians Instagram account, which, if you take a look at it, has very few actual photographs on it. It's mostly like middle-aged mom feel-goodery quotes in generic flowy fonts. Staycation for the nation. Ah, yes, very clever, very clever. Staycation for us. Travel to Quebec for Trudeau. Page 178 and 180, Veterans Affairs spent nearly $32,800 on photographers, but please remember, Trudeau once said veterans are asking for more than he could give. Now that nearly $33,000 amount spent at Veterans Affairs, patting the minister's ego, was about $1,000 shy of the cost of Air Force Captain Kimberly Fawcett's prosthetic leg, the leg the VA refused to pay for. Keep in mind, Trudeau has his own full-time dedicated photographer taking totally spontaneous pictures of him pretending to be on the phone so that we can all be blown away by his commitment and work ethic. Stroking liberal egos is pricey business. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. While the approved media in this country get into Justin Trudeau's pandemic daily show outside of his Rideau cottage, Rebel News, out here in the real world, we're doing real accountability journalism. To support the work we do, please go to helprebelnews.com.